and welcome to the Design Rescue Show, where we take a behind-the-scenes look at the unique journeys of creative professionals, and we learn about the choices they've made that have shaped their career paths. Hello, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us today. I'm your host, David Block, and today I'm honored to welcome a true visionary in the creative field, multifaceted creative powerhouse, Ben Burns. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And wow, what a gracious introduction. I hope I don't disappoint.
Well, let's start off by going through your work history and sort of let everybody know where your experience, sort of comes from. And so you started out as a junior graphic designer. You went into the Army in 2010, and let me just stop and say thank you for your service. Absolutely. Yeah. And then you were a creative director at Tech Critic, and then you founded Burnt Creative before that, correct?
Yeah, my career has been all over the place. So the cool thing about being a creative is that business comes almost like second nature, at least to me, because it's like now that you have a skill, right? You can design, you can animate, you can do, you can make things for clients.
Right.
Once you have that skill, it's like you can stand up a business even if you're already doing something. So the side hustles for creatives is just absolutely a wonderful thing. So Burnt Creative actually started as a side hustle. I was working full time as a junior graphic designer, and I needed some kind of name to put on my portfolio that I was using to bring in freelance clients. So it started way before it was actually a full time real world business.
Right. I see. Okay. All right. Excellent. So, I'd like to actually take a step backwards and go back to the very beginning and start by talking about your education and how it influenced your career direction. So, you were an Army veteran. You studied I'm sorry, let me say that again. You studied media arts at the University of South Carolina, and you have a master's in cybersecurity in from Armstrong Atlantic. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Wide variety of skill sets. And you're currently the COO at the Futur.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, do you want to go way back? Because we could go way back.
Yeah, let's go way back. Yeah, before that.
Take it back to high school.
Okay.
So in high school, I was obsessed with photography, just absolutely obsessed. And I had burned through photo 1, photo 2, photo 3, and then I ran out of courses to take. But I was only in my junior year. So I talked with the photography teacher at my school, and then she said, "Hey, look, if you can talk to your guidance counselor, we can do something. We can create a photo 5, photo 6 course for you to take so that you can continue your studies." So I went into the guidance counselor, who also just happened to be the head of the show choir, and he sat back and he said, "I had just seen you at the Battle of the Bands. You have a good voice. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'll give you your photo 5, and I'll give you your photo 6, but I want you to be in show choir with me. So if you agree to that, your photo classes are there." So that was my senior year. My senior year was full of photography and 2 different kinds of chorus and technical theater. So the creative bug bit me in high school.
Right. Oh, that's great. That's great. I was in choir and drama all 4 years. I get that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
When I went to university, I didn't know what I was doing really. I honestly didn't know design was a career. I mean, back in those days, it was the beginning of the Photoshop era, and I loved making stuff in Photoshop. But I had no idea that graphic design was a real thing. Nobody in my life was a designer. I had no one kind of directing me towards design as a career.
Right.
And so I went in, and I think the first major that I chose was journalism. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was journalism. Then I bounced over to advertising. Advertising was a better match for me.
Yeah.
And what I found there was that my assignments in my advertising classes while most students were really focused on like, what's the campaign? Like, what's the tagline that's going to run this new Coca-Cola campaign? How are we going to distribute it? Like, what channels are we going to purchase media on? I was obsessed with the way that the ads looked. So I spent the majority of those classes designing ads without really knowing that I was like in design mode.
Oh.
So then a buddy of mine said, "Hey, you should apply for this. It was like a student organization for marketing."
Okay.
So I applied for that. I got on the board there, and as a board member there, we got first looks at a lot of the internships that were coming through. And so I found this internship from this little company called Post No Bills, and it said design intern. I was like, design intern? That sounds cool. So I get all dressed up. I put on my suit and tie. I'm like super professional. There's no beard in those days. Okay. So I'm super clean cut.
Yeah.
So I show up for the interview and I walk in, and this is the most wild environment that I had ever seen. I mean, there were toys all over the place. There was art on the wall. There was rock music playing in the hallway. The CEO was just this wild, just enigmatic, charismatic character. Then I sat down across from the creative director, who was this just incredible human being, kind of a hippie, but graduated from Ringling. And the first question she asked me was, "Can I see your portfolio?" I said, "What is that?" So she said, "Yeah, it's your body of work. So if you could show me some examples of your work, that would be great." And I'm like, "Oh, I wasn't prepared for that. I'm so sorry. I don't have anything with me."
Yeah.
She said, "Okay, well, we'll continue the interview, and maybe could you come back tomorrow with some examples?" And I said, "Sure, yeah." So we did the interview. I was nervous the whole time, just sweating, right? Just absolute drenched in nervous sweat. And then I came back. The next day, I knew I needed to make up for the fumble that I had in
Right.
the interview. So
Yeah.
I stayed up all night, 24 hours, and I developed 3 projects, and every single project was a branding project. So I did a beer company, I think I did a magazine, and I did something else. Terrible work, right? The work was not good. But when I came back the next day and I showed her, she was like, "Did you do all of this last night?" And I said, "Yeah." And she was like, "Okay, we got to work on your design skills, but you get the job." So that's my entry into design. That's kind of
Wow.
when design became a reality for me, and that was in sophomore year of college.
Wow, that's fantastic. The initiative alone got you the position. That's fantastic.
It most certainly wasn't my skill.
Oh. Well, that's wonderful. All right. I'm actually curious if we take a step forward now from that time, and I'm just curious how your skills at South Carolina, your skills that you learned with the cybersecurity program, and even your military skills, how they sort of build into your current. Well, let me just say that again. How they guide your leadership style in your current position.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we are the sum of our experiences, and so I don't know any other way. But obviously, being in the military, you're trained on leadership skills. You're trained to be a leader of people. Um, I was enlisted, but I made E5 sergeant, and it had a small team. Um, and so I think that those skills carried over in that whenever I'm put in charge of people, whenever I'm managing people, I'm just obsessed with their success. And I think that has made me a good leader. But
There we go. Yeah.
there is an element from both military, and I was also a police officer, that there's a grit that you have to have doing those difficult jobs. And I think that grit, the toughness, the just complete inability to be knocked down, it has served me far better than any of the soft skills or the hard skills that I've learned in my career. Because really, especially being in a creative role, the only time that you can fail is when you stop. It's when you quit.
Right.
So I credit just, I don't know, maybe it's stubbornness that I picked up in the military and as a cop, but I think that served me far more than anything.
So now I'm curious, as far as overcoming challenges in your career. Could you describe a time when you faced sort of an unexpected obstacle in a project, and you can talk about how you overcame that challenge?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the one that just that still makes the hairs on the back of my neck kind of stand up
Yeah.
is it's in the Burt Creative days. I don't know if David, I don't know if you've ever kind of experienced this, but have you ever screwed up on client work?
Have I ever? Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. So
More
you
than I
know
would
that
like to
feeling,
admit.
right? You know that sinking feeling in your gut when you really like, "Oh man, I messed up."
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
So we were doing some packaging design for a client of ours, and it was in the days where I had hired my first employee. So it was me and a design intern, and it was just the two of us, and we were just cranking on all the client work that we could come up with. And somewhere along the line, we put the wrong barcode on the piece of packaging.
Oh
Now,
no.
thankfully, we had an approval process in place where these things were supposed to be checked by the client, but really it was our fault because the client had provided a barcode to us. So
Right.
the barcode went to print. They printed, I don't know, 50,000 pieces, 100,000 pieces, and then shipped everything to Amazon. Amazon received barcodes. They let them know that the product that they had in their hand did not match the product that they had on the screen,
Right.
and all panic ensued. I got a really gnarly phone call from the client who was obviously and deservedly upset that we had screwed up their design. We had screwed up their print order. They had spent a whole bunch of money not only printing, but they were also losing money because the inventory was low, and now they couldn't sell the product that they had in stock.
Yeah.
And so we were looking at it like, man, I think the total was $100,000 or $120,000 worth of product. And there was no way that I could cover that.
Right.
So the client and I put our heads together, and what emerged from that, and I really think it's due to the relationship that I had with the client. What emerged from that is all we got to do is we just print a sticker. So we covered the printing for a whole bunch of stickers,
Oh, there you go.
and we slapped a barcode sticker on top of the packaging right where the barcode should be, shipped it all
Right.
back to Amazon. It was fine. So what was, several $100,000 worth of problem was solved by a couple $100 and a roll of stickers.
Outstanding. Wow. Okay. That's a quick turn of events that I'm sure saved your hide. That's fantastic.
I think that's where I lost about this much hair here. That's where that section went.
Okay, excellent. And now, and you actually have this is I actually looked through your resume. I didn't see this, and I noticed somewhere else that you had served as, or maybe it was in your resume on LinkedIn there, as the VP of the Richmond chapter of AIGA. AIGA. Say that again. Um, that's fantastic. And you were there from 2016 to 2017. And I'm curious for those in the audience who aren't aware, AIGA is the American Institute of Graphic Arts, and curious if there was a project, an initiative, or something that you're particularly proud of and what kind of impact did you have on the local design community?
Yeah. Honestly, I think that connecting with local creatives, um, it should be every creative person's mission to do this, because there's something about being in a room with a bunch of people who are probably better than you are, and just being able to rub elbows, but also just absorb their creative energy. There's something different about being close in person with people. Because we've got design communities online that we can join. We've got creative social media channels that we can follow, but the connection that you make with meeting somebody in person is so valuable. And in those days, AIGA was really the place to be for that.
Yeah.
And so I'm incredibly thankful that I got a chance to serve as the VP in those days. The one thing that we did that was honestly, it changed my life, and it was really beneficial for the community. Was an event that we threw, and I think the event was called Position, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mhm.
But I basically reached out to a whole bunch of my superheroes, the people that had written things or created things that just changed my life. And I invited them to Richmond to speak at this little mini conference. And I think it was only 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday. There were maybe 50 to 60 people. But I invited two dudes who literally changed the course of my life, which was Christo, the
Mhm.
founder of the Future, and my friend, and uh, Michael Janda, who wrote the book Burn Your Portfolio. Both of those, which I would consider titans in the creative education communities, showed up in Richmond to speak at my little event. So the it's funny. It's funny how life goes. It's like when you look backwards on somebody else's story, it looks like a straight line. Like they started here and they went from point A to point B without any interruptions or anything. But in reality, it feels like a zigzag that you're playing in the dark and it's foggy out.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
kind of how it feels. You don't know where things are going to take you. And that event, for me personally, um, put me in a position where Chris mentored me. I had more conversations with Michael Janda, who gave me a whole bunch of advice about growing my studio. My studio grew, and then everything else kind of unfolded from there. So that was an integral part, kind of a key moment in my personal career.
If you're enjoying this video, please take a moment to hit that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our future videos. Thank you. Great, that's a great story. And so there was a time at where you were working at the Future and Blind simultaneously, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious if you use what you learned at projects that you're working on at Future during that time, and then kind of to improve your work at Blind and vice versa. Did you cross pollinate your projects at all?
I think Blind really fed the Future. I think it was a driving force behind the Future, because we were taking everything that we were learning and experiencing and have learned from, there were really five of us, which if you add up all those years, we're looking at 60, 70, 80 years of cumulative experience.
Right.
We were taking all that and going, oh, we could just tell people this stuff. Like we can share this with people. And so Blind, every time we ran into an obstacle, or every time we had something that either went really well or really terrible, we would make some content about it as a way to help other people. And so I think that it was really Blind feeding the Future. The Future's social media success had some impact on Blind, in that, like, we did have some clients come in that wanted our advice on growing their social platforms and stuff like that. But it was a little too early to really capitalize on that side of things. The Probably one of my favorite things that we did as kind of a crossover with Blind in the Future was the Building a Brand series, where we had this inquiry. It was a brewery. Um, Josh Hamilton, and his brewery was Hamilton Family Brewery. He wanted to completely rebrand the company. And we were kind of on the lookout for a project that we could do that would make a great piece of content, because we were like, man, it would be really neat to do kind of a docu-series about this project.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. It was kind of it was a very strange thing in that Josh was amazing on camera. He was wide open about everything that he wanted to do. And we were able to record every step of the process. And we had a team in place and a locale that was really wonderful to shoot at. And the project took some time to complete just because we were doing two things at once. But that has been probably in my life the project that I'm proudest of, simply because all of the things that we were able to coordinate in order to both rebrand a brewery, but then
Right.
also make a docu-series about it.
Oh, outstanding. Wow, that's fantastic. Is that available for viewing now, or
Yeah, you can just Google building a brand. It's on YouTube.
Excellent. Okay. And if you don't mind, I'll put a link to that in the description of this video.
Yeah, please
That'd
do.
be great. All right, excellent. In your journey across different roles, I'm curious what lesson that you've learned about being creative and innovative that has sort of guided you and helped in your career.
I think it kind of boils down to two separate things.
Yeah.
I think creativity and innovation are two different masters that we kind of have to serve as creative professionals. Because creativity, I mean, just the ability to create, um, the thing that drives that for me, the driving force behind creativity, is grit. It's grit. Just
Yeah.
because you've got to sit down at your computer and do the work, even if it doesn't feel like it. And a lot of people are, especially when they're just starting their career, they feel inspired, they feel motivated to sit down and embark on this wonderfully creative adventure, right? We open Illustrator and it's just flowing. The thing is that when you get paid to do that, sometimes that spark goes away. And
Right.
what's left is to sit down and do the work. I think Picasso actually said that the the muse only visits when you're doing the work. And it's not the other way around. The muse doesn't visit to inspire you to do the work. The muse only visits when you're actively paying tribute to it by working. And so part of I guess the thing that I was able to take from the military, from the police department, from the grind of entrepreneurship is you sit down and you do the work, whether you feel like it or not, whether it's raining or sunny, whether it's a Monday or a Friday. You sit down and you get things done. Innovation is a whole different beast. I think the ability to make something new and fresh,
Yeah.
it really boils down to taking two concepts that are that haven't been previously combined and putting them together in a fresh way. So if
Mhm.
you think about all of the major design trends over the years, it's kind of old stuff that just haven't been brought together. Um, so I see that as also as a side effect of just sitting down and doing the work every single day.
Great. That's actually really good advice. On the topic of advice, moving on to be quite honest, this is actually the last question. We made it to the end of the
Oh,
interview.
nice. Okay.
All right. And it went very fast. And but once again, I just want to say thank you for your time. I value your being a part of the show, and I absolutely appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And yeah, no problem. And so my last question, in terms of guidance for new designers and a little more advice from you about possibly how new designers entering the creative industry, what they should look for, and more importantly, their portfolio. What should they focus on in their portfolio? What would you suggest?
Oh man. In your portfolio, you have to you have to put work in your portfolio that you want to get hired for.
Right.
There's such a misconception out there, and I worry that it's being perpetuated by either design educators or maybe it's university. But there's this weird misconception that the only work that goes in your portfolio is work that you've been paid for, and the only work that goes in your portfolio is your portfolio becomes almost like a historical documentation of all the work that you've been paid to do, even if you don't like it. That's crap. That's BS. Honestly, your portfolio should be the kind of work that you want to be hired for moving forward, even if you have to do personal projects. Now, a caveat on that is those personal projects, they have to be great. They have to be incredible. So I want to see, if you're going to redesign a website, for example, I don't want to see you redesign a Nike website that already has like all the coolest assets and the best photos and all this kind of stuff. No, you have to actually go into a really bad website and redesign it to be something really cool. But those personal projects, they're the secret sauce. They're the magic that propels people into better clients, the dream jobs, the projects that you kind of wake up in the morning and you're excited to tackle. And a lot of that comes from starting your portfolio with personal work. So I think as you move from the education sphere, where all of the work in your portfolio is coming from assignments, and then you move into your professional career, don't lose that willingness to just make because it's fun, because that fun is going to be the thing that feeds your entire career. And make sure your portfolio is a reflection of the fun that you're having, even if you're not being paid for it.
Excellent. On that topic, just a follow up in the portfolio, I am actually curious if you feel that there would be a point where you would have too much in your portfolio. Have you ever seen a portfolio that's overloaded, or is it just let's add as much as we can into to show all the variety of skills that we have?
I don't know. I've seen it both ways. I've seen portfolios that are just completely overloaded. Um, but what that looks like to me is I'm looking at a body of work that has very little consistency. It has skills that are ranging from like, table decoration to logo design, right?
Right.
And then everything in between. And so if I'm not getting a vibe, if I'm not getting the message, like with a capital M, from your portfolio, that's going to say that you don't really know what you want to be doing. And so consistency, I think, is really important. Now, you can be consistent across 50 pieces of work. That's totally cool. And by consistency, you could be consistent in your aesthetics. You could be consistent in what you choose to specialize in. You could be consistent with the kind of client work that you want to, like the industry or the market that you want to serve. There's a lot of different ways to be consistent, but I have to be able to receive that. So you can be really consistent over the 50 projects, but 3 to 5 seems to be a sweet spot. If you got 3 to 5 projects in your portfolio, that seems to be a really nice number where I can kind of get what you're trying to say. I can get the message, but there's enough for me to go on without being overwhelming.
Excellent.
But I just want to reiterate that, like, again, your portfolio is not a historical documentary record of the work that you've done.
Yeah.
It is a sales tool, whether you're trying to get a job, whether you're trying to get new clients. So you have to look at it like marketing materials. And so the product that you're advertising is the service that you're selling. And so what do you want to sell? Like, who do you want to buy your services? Some thought needs to go in there so that way you can figure out what the message is.
I see. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much. I absolutely appreciate your time. And once again, thank you for being here, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was super fun.